I decided to tell this story because of something very simple that happened one day in April 2026. My son, whose curiosity, support, and request to turn this simple math lesson into a YouTube video inspired me to share it. I was at the grocery store with my son. He's almost 13, and we were just picking up a few things. There are lessons all around us. Everyday moments, things we usually just pass by without thinking. And if we don't stop and actually talk about them, those lessons get missed. And I started thinking, if I don't take the time to show him how money really works now, when life is simple, then later. When life gets more complicated, those habits are already set. So this story isn't about complicated investing. It's not about getting rich quick, because the truth is, it's usually not the big decisions that shape your future. It's the small ones, repeated over and over again, that either build something or slowly take it away. The $1 a day lesson, How Small Choices Build a Future. By R10 Brinke. The afternoon had been quiet up until that point. The kind of quiet where you could hear the soft scratching of a pencil against paper, and the occasional sigh that followed it. Then again, and then he stopped altogether, letting the pencil fall onto the table with a small thud. "I don't get this," he muttered under his breath. He leaned back in his chair, frustrated, staring at the page as though it had personally offended him. "This doesn't make any sense." From the oven, his mother heard him. She didn't rush and right away. She paused for a moment, listening, not just to his words, but to the frustration behind them. It wasn't just about the math. It was the feeling of not understanding, the feeling of trying, and still coming up short. After a moment, she walked over and sat down beside him. "What's going on?" she asked gently. He pushed the paper slightly toward her. "I don't get it. I don't even know what they want me to do." She looked down at the worksheet. The question read, "Which is the better deal? Option A, 3 items for $5. Option B, 5 items for $9. Explain your answer." She smiled slightly, not because it was easy, but because she recognized something. "I can see why that's confusing," she said. He looked at her a bit surprised. "You can." "Yeah," she nodded, at first glance. "It doesn't look like there's much difference, does it?" He shook his head. "No, they kind of look the same." She didn't correct him. She didn't jump ahead. Instead, she asked, "If you wanted to figure out which one is better, what do you think you'd need to know?" He shrugged. "I don't know which one costs less." "That's part of it," she said, "but both of them already tell you the price." He frowned slightly, looking back at the paper. "What we don't know yet," she continued, "is how much each item costs by itself." He looked at her again, confused. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the first option. "If 3 items cost $5, how much would 1 item cost?" He stared at it. "I don't know," he said honestly. And that's where the frustration usually grows. Because now it feels like more work, not less. She could see it on his face. That same look that says, "I'm about to give up." So instead of pushing harder, she paused. Then she said, "You know what? This reminds me of something." He looked at her, slightly annoyed. "What?" "The other day," she said, "when you came to the store with me." He thought for a second. "Yes." She continued, "Do you remember the fruit aisle?" He nodded slowly. "And the kiwis." There was a small pause. Then his expression shifted just a little. "Oh yeah." She smiled. She picked it up for a moment, turning it slightly in her hand. Then she looked down the aisle. Something didn't feel right. So instead of just taking it and putting it in the cart, she took a few steps further. Past the apples, past the oranges, past the grapefruit, past the coconuts her son had just been looking at. And then she saw them. Individual kiwis, lined up quietly, almost easy to miss if you hadn't bothered to look. $1 each. She stood there for a moment, letting it sink in. Then she called him over. "Hey, come here for a second." He walked back toward her. "What?" She pointed. "These kiwis are $1 each." Then she gestured back toward where she had been standing. "But that pack over there is $7 for 6. He looked back and forth, trying to make sense of it. "So if you bought 6 of these, it would be $6. He stepped back a little, his eyes moving between the 2 displays, trying to take it all in. "Exactly," she said. He paused again, then looked back toward the package. "So the pack costs more." "Yeah." There was a quiet moment between them. Not long, but long enough for something to click. Just $1 difference. $1. Small enough that most people wouldn't even think twice about it. Small enough to ignore, but big enough to matter. She looked at him and asked gently, "Do you think most people would notice that?" He shook his head. "Probably not." And that was the moment the lesson really began. Because it wasn't about the kiwi. It wasn't even about the price. It was about how easy it is to lose money without even realizing it. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. And once you understand that, you can start to change it. Back at the table, she looked down at the worksheet again. Then she looked at him. "Do you see it now?" she asked gently. He hesitated. "A little," he said, "but not really." She nodded. "That's okay, let's walk through it slowly." She pointed to the first option on the page. 3 items for $5. Then she tapped the paper lightly. "If we want to know which deal is better, we have to compare them the same way." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She smiled just a little. "Right now, one is 3 items, and one is 5 items. That's not the same." He looked down again. "So, we have to make them the same." She waited quietly, giving him time to think it through. "Exactly." She picked up the pencil and held it out to him. "You try." He sighed but took it. "Okay." She pointed again. "If 3 items cost $5, how much does 1 item cost?" He stared at it, then slowly said, 5 divided by 3. She nodded. "Try it." He wrote it out, a little messy at first. 5 divided by 3. He paused. "That's like $1 and something." She watched him carefully, letting him work through it step by step before guiding him further. "Good," she said, "keep going." $1.67, he guessed. She nodded again. "About that, yes." He looked at it again, this time a little more focused. "So each one costs about $1.67. She gave him a moment to sit with the answer, watching as the numbers started to make sense to him. "Right." She moved his pencil to the second option. "Now do the same thing here. 5 items for $9, he said. Then he wrote it out. 9 divided by 5. He paused again, thinking harder this time. "That's $1.80. She didn't say anything right away. She just watched his face, because this was the moment where it either stayed confusing or started to make sense. He looked at both numbers, $1.67, $1.80. His eyes moved back and forth between them. "This one is cheaper," he said. Then his eyebrows lifted slightly, pointing to the first option. "Oh wait." She stayed quiet. 3 for 5. She smiled. "Why?" "Because each one costs less." There was a small pause. Then he looked up at her. "That's the same thing as the kiwis." She nodded. "Exactly." And just like that, the paper wasn't confusing anymore. Because it wasn't just numbers now. It was something he had seen. Something he had experienced. Something real. She leaned back slightly and let him sit with it for a moment. Then she said, "So let me ask you something." He looked at her. "When we were at the store, how easy would it have been to just grab that pack and not think about it?" "Really easy," he said. "And if you did that every time?" she asked. He thought about it. "But a little. You'd lose money. Every time." He looked back down at the paper again. She nodded. "Not a lot at once." But this time, it didn't feel the same. Because now, he understood something more than just the answer. He understood the pattern. She let that thought sit for a moment, not rushing it, not filling the silence. Because sometimes, understanding needs a little space to settle in. Then she said, "Now let's take it one step further." He looked up again. "What do you mean?" She rested her hand lightly on the table. "We just talked about how you can lose $1 without noticing." He nodded slowly. "So what if," she continued, "instead of losing that $1, you saved it?" "Okay," she said, "let's see." He shrugged. "It's still just $1. She pulled the paper a little closer. She smiled, not correcting him. "How many days are in a week?" He smiled. 7. "And in 2 weeks?" she asked. 14. She nodded. "So if you saved $1 every day, how much would you have in 2 weeks?" He didn't even need to think this time. $14. He said it with a quiet confidence, almost surprised at how quickly the answer came to him. "Right." She continued. "Now let's pretend you're a little older." He leaned back slightly, listening. "Let's say you're working part-time, maybe 20 hours a week, at about $13 an hour." He nodded slowly. "That means you would make about $260 in 1 week." He didn't answer right away. And in 2 weeks, she asked. Instead, he leaned forward and picked up his pencil again. Looking back at the numbers she had just said, you could almost see him working through it in his mind. Then he began to write it out on the paper in front of him, slowly, carefully. 260 times 2. He paused for a moment, checking it. Then he nodded slightly to himself, as if it finally made sense. Only then did he look up. 520, he answered. Good. She tapped the table lightly. So every 2 weeks, you make $520. And you save 14. He nodded. So how much do you have left? She asked. He answered almost immediately. 506. She smiled. That's right. Let me ask you something honestly. She leaned back just slightly. He looked at her. Do you think you could live on $506 for 2 weeks? He gave a small half laugh. Yeah. He shifted in his seat, a hint of realization beginning to settle in. Of course you could, she said. Most people spend more than that without even thinking. She let that sink in. You're saving money, she continued. And 52. No, she said gently. A lot of people get paid every other week. He blinked. What does that mean? It means they get paid once every 2 weeks, she explained. He nodded slowly. So if there are 52 weeks in a year, she continued, and they get paid every 2 weeks, how many paychecks would that be? He paused, thinking it through. Then he picked up his pencil and wrote it out. He wrote it down. 26. She nodded. $364. Exactly. That's not that much. He leaned back again. She smiled again. Not yet. Then she said, keep going. He looked at her. What do you mean? Let's keep going, she repeated. Do it again next year. And the year after that. And the year after that. From $1 a day. There was a longer pause this time. Not confusion. Understanding. He looked at her, and I wouldn't even notice it. Exactly. She folded her hands lightly. That's the part most people miss. It's not about saving a lot. It's about doing something small. Every single day.